Okay, let's see if it works for Carla. It doesn't. So the nice thing is that the stager gets to be the one that is the bearer of bad news for the seller. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get I meant to do. There we go. And guys, I can't tell you how important that is. And we'll talk about the actual report that they send over, but you don't want to be the bad guy. Let the stager be the bad guy. And the stager knows that they're the bad guy. So the stager gets to be the one that says, you need to pre-pack and get rid of this lazy boy. And maybe 40 of the 55 pictures you have of your grandson on the wall. Okay. And you get to be like, oh my gosh, like Judy just wants everything to be perfect, doesn't she? Like, my God, Judy, right? And Judy gets to be the one that tells them like, hey, this is not like, there is a smell. I'm sensing a smell in the house here. And you allow Judy to be the bad guy, the stager to be the bad guy. You get to come in and be the good guy and help them solve the problem, help them figure out how to fix things and make it to where and you're problem solving with them. Does that make sense? Money well spent to stay the good guy. Okay, any questions on the actual appointment in the house with the stager? Let me show you what that staging report typically looks like. So we will.
And do you have a range cost for that preview appointment?
Yes. So typically your preview appointment is going to cost anywhere from $100 to $150. Okay. And I know that that's real money. And I know sometimes when you're first getting started, that's like, oh my gosh, like I have to pay for photos, which are typically like $100 to $150. And yet, the staging piece, again, you're paying for a bad guy to come in and be a bad guy for you. But the reason it's so important too is you're getting your clients to declutter and give you a house that looks like a model home. All right. We'll walk through this process here and I'll show you what a report looks like. But the reason that's invaluable to you as an agent is they're going to stage the house as if it's a model home for you. And then you get to go sell that house. And the photos you're paying lots of money for are going to be of something that looks like a model home. And then you get to reuse that in marketing going forward, right? It also is an example of how you're presenting homes to the market. For anyone and everyone that's watching you and seeing what is it, how do you sell a home? Are you the real deal, or is this kind of just a hobby for you? And I will say it's the quickest, easiest way to make people realize that you're not taking this lightly. Like you take selling their home as serious business, and you're going to help them to market it in the best way possible. This may sound silly, but if I can give you this analogy or explain it in this way, let's say that we've got Joan and Joan's getting ready to sell her house, right? She posts the pictures. She's super excited. Oh my gosh, look at my house. We've listed it for sale. Every one of her family members and her coworkers and her friends are going to look at those photos and be like, I have been to Joan's house. It does not look like this. Joan, my God, your house could be in a magazine. This looks amazing. And Joan's going to go, oh yes, like it was work, but like Elizabeth was great. She brought in a stager. The stager told us exactly where to move what and what to do. Is that not an amazing like testimonial for you? Where someone knows that's not what Joan's house looked like. And here she had an agent that's going to help her prep her house and get it on the market so it looks like $1 million. And then the next day, Joan can say, or the next week, yeah, it was great. Elizabeth was wonderful. We got X number of showings and this number of offers. And the story continues to where it's really easy for that referral to come your way. Does that make sense? Also, when someone refers someone to you, they understand that's the process you're going to take their people through as well, and that you're going to be really well taken care of. So I know that sounds silly, but you're getting bang for your buck and having a bad guy, having a home that looks like a model home for you to sell instead of like, oh, I'm kind of cringing at these pictures. Like, oh my gosh. And having it to where your people feel like it's an extra added service. So money well spent. This is what typically you're going to see a staging report. Typically, they're going to get those staging reports out. It's a great question to ask a stager when you hire them. If you meet with my clients on Thursday at 6 o'clock, when would we be able to expect that staging report to come? Most of them are within 24 hours. Sometimes they're going to say, if we meet Thursday night, I'll have it for them Saturday morning. Okay, so it's going to have on here kind of some general stuff. It then goes room by room for them with bullet points of what to do. If you work with type A people, they're going to love this. I worked with a lot of type A people and I can't even tell you how excited they were to just have a list that they can go in and check things off, right? Oftentimes I would have to either tell people to calm down and like, okay, you guys, we don't have to do everything. Like, again, Judy wants to make the house perfect. We can step off of that a little bit. Again, it was another time I got to make Judy the bad guy and say, man, she just wants to make it perfect. So you guys want to walk through the staging report together and we can cross off what you do want to do, what you don't want to do. Most of the time they'd be like, oh no, I think we're going to do all of it. Maybe not that one thing about painting the kitchen again, because I think we're okay with leaving it the blue that it is. But otherwise, I think we're going to do everything on that staging report. But it gives them calm to know exactly what it is you want them to do. Okay. And it gives you the ability to go through and set expectations. But a lot of times it's going to say in the entryway, add a rug, or in the pre-pack the baby gate, pre-pack the photos on the wall and add 3 neutral pieces. And it's just doing one, like the closet, you want to have the floors be cleared off. I'm happy to share some examples of staging reports. I will say, guys, if you want to study those, is it something you can do by yourself initially if money is tight? Yes. There are times, even when I've been selling for years, that my stager would be out of town for 10 days and good for her. She deserved a vacation. And yet I needed to get a property on like pronto and I had people ready to go. So I would go in and do this. I'd be the bad cop, but I'd go in and do the staging report myself that time, right? And I would just mimic kind of what they've done. But I will tell you, it is night and day sometimes with properties. So many times clients would say, wow, now we kind of don't want to move. Like, this is really nice, right? So it's very, very helpful. It's something that is key in your business and I would not undervalue it. A lot of times too, you need to warn your sellers. It is a lot of work. They're pre-packing up a lot of stuff and getting like bookshelves cleared off. I mean, you guys have shown who's shown houses in here? Okay, can you walk in, you can tell when they've been staged and when they have it. Now there are some people that live lives like that. Like I've gone to listing appointments and been like, oh, y'all just live like this, right? I live like that because I've been a realtor for 12 years. And so my house, I could put it on the market tomorrow. It's sick. I mean, I might have to put it at the basement a little bit, but most people do not. And so you know that those houses have been staged too. And so I would say in your listing appointment, you're going to provide an example and set expectations. I don't know how many times I say set expectations, but hey guys, I want to let you know one of the services I do provide is I'm going to bring in a stager for you. And that stager is going to give you kind of a bullet point room by room, what it is you should do. And that's part of my services. So if we want to go ahead and sign paperwork today, we can move forward with that. So one or two things there. The stager can be a carrot to get them to sign the paperwork and move forward. Okay. If there's ever a time that you think you might be competing, where you think that there might be one of two parties that are making a decision and you need to kind of push it over, oftentimes I would go to the listing appointment and I would have called my stager ahead of time and said, what are your next 3 appointments? If I call you tonight, can you hold this one for me? And I promise I'll call you after the listing appointment tonight and let you know if I need that Thursday at 6 o'clock. That way I walked into my listing appointment. If all went well, and we're looking at the calendar, and we're talking about like that calendar, timeline stuff. If all was going well, I could then say, hey guys, I talked to my stager before I came and she says she's got 6 o'clock on Thursday. She's got a 5 o'clock on Friday or a 10 a.m. on Saturday. If you guys want to go ahead and sign listing paperwork, I can confirm that 6 o'clock or whatever might work for you. So many times by the time you're sitting at their kitchen table, they are ready to go. Like they're like, let's do this. Like there are those times where you've got people that are like, let's go, let's go. And again, the faster you can get them on the market, the faster you get them under contract, the faster you get a paycheck. What I often use in that line as well, because I know that feels uncomfortable, right? To be like pushing paperwork in somebody's face and saying sign. And so I oftentimes would have little crutches. I can't, I'd love to have her come out and yet I got to stay out of realtor jail and I can't let her come out until we've got signed documents. So if you guys want to just sign here, I know we don't know what quite listing date's going to be. We can modify that later on when it's going to be kind of a thing, but here, let's get this signed and it gets your listing paperwork signed. I very much encourage you to not pay for a stager and bring a stager out until you have listing paperwork signed. Legally, can you? I would think so. Randy, sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. It's like right here. This is like dangerous, right? And yet there's been times I've paid for a stager and someone else listed the house because, it was and sometimes you're going out and doing a stager and they've got busy lives and those stagers coming out and you're not listing it for 3 months because they need 3 months to go through the 8 years worth of crap that they've collected in that house. That's okay, guys. Meet them where they are, right? Check in with them. The other thing I would say with the staging, there were times too that I paid for a stager to come out and I went to that house and didn't need any more staging. The person's watched so much HGTV. She has herself gone and staged the home, even like took away too much stuff where I was like, sweetheart, you could have left like a mirror on the wall or something here, right? And yet her anxiety was so very high that she wanted to make sure she did it appropriate, like enough that I could tell, even though the stager didn't need to come out, or even if the stager came out and only had to make like a few suggestions for my clients, they needed to have that happen to feel like they did everything they possibly could to sell that house for the most amount of money. So that was the time I was making an investment purely in the relationship, not because it was going to help me stage a house better. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions when it comes to staging appointments?
So do you have the homeowners there with the stager appointment? Because the reason I asked this is I thought you did at the beginning, but then you get a report. It would almost to me be more comfortable if the stager got to go in and then we get a report. If the sellers are there and the stager's there, it would seem like it would be more conversational and a report's not needed.
No, it's a little bit of both. So typically homeowner is there. Do they have to be there? No, but it's kind of nice in the sense that you homeowners there, you do the tour with the homeowner sometimes, or they just do the tour and you're talking to the homeowner as the agent.
Okay.
And then they come back at the end of the appointment and they give kind of a high level, here's some things for you to do. And then they send the report with all the details. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
So there's ever complicated rooms to explain or sensitive things that we're going to have a conversation about, warn your stager. We've got a major Coca-Cola collection here and someone that's I touched on it briefly and I feel like it's going to be a sensitive thing. The animal thing, I've given people a heads up and then I've sat there and politely was helping the stager too with that conversation a little bit. But yes, like I would say that is invaluable for you to be there and for the stager to be there. In time, as you get busier and your business gets busier and that relationship with that stager gets stronger, you don't always have to be there. But I would say early on, if you've got the time, be there. It's helpful.
Okay, and then have you ever paid for a stager when they're really bringing in furniture? Because that's actually pretty expensive. I mean, that could be a couple $1,000 or more.
Yes, and so my answer to that too is some agents will pay for staging. I'm getting ready to stage my flip property. It's a large property and yet it's $2,500 for 30 days worth of furniture. At minimum, typically, you're looking at that much to stage. It's probably going to be closer to $4,000 because of the size. So as an agent, that'd be your commission on some houses, right? So typically, most agents are going to assist with getting that consultation for that stager, and yet it's the homeowner's responsibility to pay for the staging, okay? And I don't recommend you get in the business of staging people's homes early on in your career. It's an option for them to do, and typically they do. We'll if they elect to do that, they'll do. Bring furniture in. I will say that sometimes if I pay for the consultation again, right? For the stager to come out, if there's any charge for the stager to come out and give the recommendation, I'm going to pay for that. Or I had before where I paid for $150 of the staging because that's what I would have paid if they were using their own furniture. Does that make sense? And a lot of times in that conversation, you are explaining to people like, hey, I think we're going to be able to sell your house for more if you pay the $2,000 for staging. Sometimes you're going to put it on vacant. It's sitting, it's not selling. You might pull it off, stage it, put it back on. I know we've had agents in the past have a lot of success there. So they kind of hold back on staging it until they see if they really need to on a vacant property. All right, fun stuff, huh? Okay, so yes, and I was saying that during your listing appointment, you're setting expectations, but you're also setting, this is going to be a lot of work. A lot of times your seller's estimated proceeds worksheet, I do have a training going through explaining to you how to fill that out. And it has 2 columns, right? Have you guys seen, if you've seen that, okay. The way that I would use those 2 columns is I would give them a range. Joan, if you want to list your house, here's the range in which I think it's going to sell it. It's going to sell anywhere between 350 and 370. Now, could it go higher? Sure, Joan, this crazy market. By all means, it could happen. I think you should make some life decisions on this 350 to 370 range. That's what I make life decisions on, okay? And what I'm gonna tell you is the more of the staging we can do, the closer we're gonna get to that 370 number. And the reason using that seller's estimated proceeds worksheet helps you get them to be more motivated about doing all of this work you're talking about, which it is work. I've sold 2 houses and had to do my personal residence. It is a ton of work. But when they see in those columns the difference between the 350 net number and the 370 net number, all of a sudden they're a lot more motivated. Prior to that, they might be thinking like, Elizabeth, why do you want us? Because you want us to make your job easier. This market's crazy. Of course it's gonna sell for more. And to be honest, like, yes, houses are selling for a crazy amount of money right now and very fast. And yet they're going to sell for even more if they're neutral and they look like model homes, right? Like those are the houses that people are tripping over themselves to write crazy offers for. Okay.
What documents are you
Typically exclusive right to sell, your affiliated business disclosure. And then I would also recommend that you go ahead and have them sign that seller's estimated proceeds worksheet. Typically, and if lead-based paint's involved, go ahead and get that signature right there, and then you can just scan it in later. I would often leave the seller's disclosure. I bring a printed out version of it, or it would come in my listing packet the day before, and I leave that with them. We talk about how to fill it out, and then I leave that as homework with them, because I don't need to sit there and wait while they fill it out and such. So a lot of times I say, you get started on this, and then let's have a call, and if there's any that you have questions on, we can talk through those questions. But that last page, where you have to mark everything,
Yeah.
I explain the difference on that, but otherwise that's what I get. And all you really need is the exclusive right to sell. You can get the others done later, but that's the one that you really want to have in place so that you can, be protected, that you're not going to pay for a stager and photos.
And so do you ask them to find these things on, and you scan it in, or do you have an iPad or something?
Oh, girl, I am like paper. My listing packet had all of the listing paperwork in it, and that was delivered the night before. So there was a copy in there. I would ask for the folder. I would take it out and say, did you guys get a chance to review this? No? Okay, let's just flip through it. Here's where you sign, kind of a thing. But that way they had the opportunity to read it ahead of time, and you'll have some people that'll read every dang page of it.
So you drop them off reminders before?
Typically I would, yes. With because in my intake, I do a pretty darn thorough job, but I already have all the comps in there for them to review prior to my arrival. I know it sounds scary. I had my little flip chart of my marketing and that little piece, but then I also had an estimated proceeds worksheet included in there, which showed them the net. And so prior to me even knowing it coming and walking in the door, they knew exactly what I thought the range was that they'd sell their house for.
So did you know their form? Did you get that off of?
Nope. What I would say is okay, you've got a mortgage, right? So your mortgage, Joan, is what? And she'd go, oh, it's it's right around 320. I'm like, okay, awesome. So your proceeds are going to be this, that would go towards that 320 mortgage. And you on the fly can make that adjustment and write it out if they seem like math is not good for them. Most people can figure it out at that point, but sometimes I would, okay, well, let's subtract out that 320. This is where we're going to be. Any other questions? Okay, I think some of you got to hear about me not feeling the best, but also I think that this is a really good, are you guys okay with watching a video, and I'll pause? Great, good, wonderful, excellent. And so I said I wasn't funny. Can you guys hear online? Okay. I'm gonna be patient. Or you can skip that because I just did that. I'm sorry, guys. Here we go. Oh my God, Elizabeth, stop touching things. All right, guys, just kidding. I don't want, I apologize. Like now we've learned that I can't do that on the fly. Okay, okay. Good news. I have it pulled up here to where we can go through templates. So. Okay, just kidding. You guys are so great. Thank you. All right, so email template as well. Typically on photos, you want to always set expectations. I should get a t-shirt made. Like that's the big Keller Williams thing is to get t-shirts, right? Like black t-shirts that says what he's saying. So set expectations. That would be my t-shirt. You want to send this out ahead of time. A lot of times you think that it's obvious, but you got to remember your clients are very stressed out. They've been like working their tail off to do all of the staging you asked them to do. So don't underestimate the obvious. Remind them not to park vehicles in the driveway because they will be in your photos for your listing. And I can't tell you how frustrating it is when you can't include a photo of the front of the house because there's like an old truck in the picture. So you want to be aware of that. There we go. I would also say you can suggest that they go in and turn on lamps for you and turn off ceiling fans and such. You can include that here in the template that you're sending out as well. I often would remind them about things like cell phone chargers and irons and such as well. But I will tell you, you as the listing agent are going to attend the photo appointment, okay? So oftentimes I would have to train my assistants on this. This was a job that I was able to leverage out. One of the first things you get to leverage out when you get to hire help. So you're going to tell your client photos are at 1 o'clock. You may very well be lying to your clients, right? The photographer is actually not going to arrive until 1:30, 1:45. It's again, situational by situational. So as an agent, you're thinking about your client in the situation. Has this person told you they were going to do something and then you get there and it's really not quite done and you kind of get a vibe that they may not be as prepared or they may not have done as much as you think? When it's that kind of client, you guys know what I'm talking about. We're not judging people. We're just meeting them where they are. Okay. A lot of times in that case, I would say photos are at 1 and I would schedule the photographer for maybe 1:45 or 2 o'clock and give myself a whole hour to try to run around and do as much as I possibly can to finish up that last minute staging. If it's somebody that's pretty like type A, pretty on their game, 30 minutes is usually enough. And what I mean is part of your job when showing up to that photo appointment, 98% of the time is to get the seller the heck out of the house. And I kid you not, like it is. And I'd have to oftentimes admins that would be like, no, your job is to literally, oh, where's your coat? Okay, here you go. Like get out the door so that you can run around and do what you need to do and get the house prepped. It is so very hard on the photographer when like a ton of people are in the house and there's kids running around. I would say that it's great if you can have them alone in the house or in the house with you. You want your photographer to be able to focus. You want your photographer to be able to be in the element and thinking about the best angles of the home, okay? So getting the seller out is a lot of times 90% of the project. We're trying to do one more thing or arrange some flowers or whatever. So once you get them out of the house, you're going to walk through each room prior to your photographer getting there. And I know this sounds basic as all get out, but you're going to take a look at the room and go, oh, let me arrange these pillows and fluff them up a little bit better. I'm going to hide the remote. I'm going to hide the Kleenex box. Like, so in the photos, you're going to go into the house and stage it even a little bit more. Oftentimes I would go and hide stuff under the bathroom sink or the remotes I put behind a decorative pillow or whatever, magazines, those kinds of things. And then I typically, the trash can in the kitchen goes in the garage. We're not taking a picture of the garage, it's going to go in the garage. So you're going through and reducing those things. You're going to refold the towels because 85% of the population doesn't know how to fold bath towels. I'm just kidding. But bath towels are a thing that I often had to like cut myself off and be like, okay, it's close enough. It's good enough. But you're going to go through, remove the toothbrush, remove the soap. I know it sounds silly, but in a photo, the less stuff that can be out, the better. Oftentimes, if I had a lot of that I needed to do that they really would need to function with their life with, I would, as I'm putting things under the bathroom sink or in under a nightstand or hidden under the bed, I take photos of it so I can remember at the end of the appointment to go pull those things back out. I had a really great client one time said he looked for his TV remote when he got home for like 45 minutes and he finally was like, I give up. And he went and turned the TV on and was like, I'm gonna just have to get up and turn it on and change the channels. He said he sat down and he was like, oh, and he felt it underneath the pillow. And he was like, really, Elizabeth? And I'm like, really, Jason? You didn't think to look under the, no, I'm just kidding. But so that I often then want to communicate to my clients too, guys, just so you know, for the photos, I did put the hand soap underneath the sink. It's okay for you for actual showings to leave those things out. But again, you're trying to think of how do I make this look most like a magazine photo? And that is an extra step. There are going to be times that they didn't get stuff done that they should have got done, or they didn't quite understand the assignment. And you're going around and trying to do as much as you can to get it to its best state. Make sense? When the photographer gets there, just, again, I would stay out of their way. You can by all means stay, but like, again, stay on another floor, stay in a room to where you're consciously staying out of their way. A lot of photographers know what they're doing. I will say my photographer, like, she loved me and because I was always like kind, but if there were things that I wanted to make sure when I gave constructive feedback throughout sometimes where it was like, okay, this wasn't what I was expecting, but in a nice way. We had a really great relationship. But a lot of times when the photographer there was there, I'd be like, guys, this backyard is huge for this neighborhood. I want to make sure that we're showing that off. So can you be sure to get a picture going this way in the backyard? And then can you go back to that corner and get one going back this way? That's one of the things that's going to help me sell this house because it's not as updated as everything else in the area. So if there are specific things that you want photos of, then be sure to go through and it's okay for you to point those out. The other thing I would say, I used to do Matterports. You guys are the 3D virtual tours. Blinds, I would make sure that I would have blinds open and curtains open for those so that they could see out, because you can see out the windows most of the times with that. Same thing with like you're opening up blinds or pulling them up. You guys know wood blinds, sometimes if you pull them up, they're like taking up this much of the window. So I would just open them in that case sometimes. Does that make sense? And so all of those different things. Any questions on prepping when you're at the house for the photo appointment? No. Okay. The only other thing I'd warn you about are those pods. Do you know what I'm talking about? You pack the pod with all your stuff and then somebody they come and pick up the pod. That is something to stay ahead of and be thoughtful of too for your photos, okay? because it's not, those can't get picked up at the drop of a hat. So you need to be communicating with your seller. Hey, you guys are doing the pod thing. That's great. I have photos scheduled for Tuesday. When's the pickup for the pod? Like early on, because if they have to adjust it, it's not easy to adjust with short-term notice a lot of times. I've had photos before that there was a pod in the driveway and it's like, secrets out, we got rid of a bunch of stuff.
So back to staging, I mean, I think a thought is pretty dramatic, but where do you suggest that they, you know, if they need to pack some things, because when you were going through the staging thing, I was thinking, okay, they could put a few boxes and stack them in the garage nice and neatly, but if they're getting rid of a lazy boy, they might need, I don't know, what, does your stager that you use usually give a recommendation, like you might invest in a storage unit or?
Yes, so we talk, that is a conversation. You as an agent, you're a problem solver. That's part of your job, is to be a problem solver. So you as an agent are going to, make suggestions of, hey, the basement, if the basement, there's plenty of room in the basement, guys, it's okay for them to go put it in the basement. If there's no storage in this house, let's not draw attention to it, okay? So, and I mean, you know what I'm talking about, those split levels sometimes, or those houses that they finished every inch of the basement. Great, we have all of this, you know, living space down here. And yet if there's no storage, you don't want to have where you can't, oh, look, there's all the Christmas stuff. And they have, you know what I mean? Like there's no room to walk around, or where do we put those things? You're trying to get rid of any of the things that would be negative and not draw attention to it. So then it's like, do you have a family member that you could store it in their garage for 60 days? Would you want to, I know a storage unit, guys, storage units aren't cheap, but would you want to invest $400 in a storage unit for a couple months to get another 10,000? And I kid you not, the staging will help you get another 10,000 in a house. Oftentimes I tell people, of all the things you can do to get more money for your house, staging is it, okay? Not, you know, going in and repainting that room. It's going to be fine. That's going to be fine. It's neutral enough. But like coming in and getting rid of all your crap is going to be where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Okay, I'm not going to join. Okay, can you guys see? I'm going to stop sharing on this one. Any other questions? This is again where I'm going to be like kind of dorky and try to show you what I mean when it comes to, I love how you guys. Define central street. I love searching my inbox in front of you guys. It's my favorite thing. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about, you get the photos back from your photographer. And this is a really important thing. I'm going to share my screen, guys, online. Give me 1 second. I promise I did not forget about you. I'm actually feeling so much better. So thank you guys for being here. I think just talking, I'll probably feel horrible afterwards. Okay, I guess I just messed that up. Let's just take a breath, Elizabeth. Didn't you guys see where I just had up this one? There we go. You guys know, I'm crazy. Carson and Matt are just laughing, and I'm okay with it. I don't blame you. Okay, so when you get your photos from your photographer, newsflash, they may very well come in a crazy order. Like all of a sudden you're starting and you're in the backyard, and then you're in the basement, and then you're at the master, and like, because they just did it in whatever order that they took the photos, okay? Do not put them on the MLS that way, okay? Also, do not wait till the day that you put it in, like you went live and then you're like, awesome, now I need to add photos. Let me go in and rearrange these on the fly. Take the time to put them in the correct order prior to hitting go live in the MLS so that you can quickly upload the photos in the MLS as soon as you go live. You guys know what I'm talking about? We're going to show how you enter a new listing. And when you enter a new listing, you hit submit, and then the next screen that comes up says upload your photos. Does that make sense? And so you want to be able to do it quickly because you do not want your new listing getting mailed out to a bunch of people with no photos. They may not click on it. It takes some of the like wind out of your sails because you then are asking for someone to come back and look at it a second time. So oftentimes you're going to get your photos. They're going to be in some crazy random order. Let's see if these that are the high res. Yeah. Okay. So you can see this is how the photos came to me. They're in like a random order. And there are some photos too that your job is to go through and select the ones that may not work best for your seller or for the house. So if there's a house, if there is a angle of a room that makes it look wonky and funky or small and is undesirable, do not use that photo. Just because you paid for it doesn't mean you need to use it. You're only using photos that are going to be a benefit to your house. They may take a picture of the basement that's not finished. You're not uploading that to the MLS, especially if everything else had a finished basement. Why are you pointing out that yours doesn't have a finished basement to everybody, right? If there's something that's showing that the neighbor's yard is kind of junky, like we're not showing that picture. So feel free to go through and remove any and not use them if they're ones that are not desirable. Okay, so I love all my what I think is obvious. Okay, so kind of stuff. So like here's one of this mudroom. I think it was not necessary to include, and so we didn't. The next thing I recommend you do, and this is a crazy Elizabeth thing, is I would often take a screenshot of them in a random order, and I would print that out. Sometimes if there's a lot of photos, I'd have to take 2 screenshots and I would print it out. I know this sounds stupid, but then on my printed out version of it, I would go through and reorder them. Here's the front door, the front of the house one I want to use. Here's the next one I want to use, 2. Here's 3. And I would cross out whatever number the photographer gave them and put my number. The reason I did that, and again, it sounds stupid, and yet every single assistant I trained on how to do my photos to how I like them, it would made it a whole lot easier for them because then you can go, sometimes you're not quite sure and you need to make some changes where you're like, oh, I thought I wanted to use that one, but then I want to put this one, and you can reorder them a lot easier scratching. But what you end up doing then is you can start with the first one in the order in which the photographer sent it to you. You right click, you click rename, and then you change the number to be the number that is on your paper that you just drew out, right? Then you get to tab to the next one, and you get to change that one to the number you have on your paper. And then you get to tab to the next one, you change that one. And then guess what? There's like magic in the background that your computer is reordering them. And when you get to the last number, they're in the order that they should be in to go in the MLS. Does that make sense? It's magic, okay? It's a magic trick. And yet I know this sounds really silly, but it makes a world of a difference for you to have it ready to go. And so that when you go live, you just go and click all of them that you need to add and hit add, and then they upload and they're all there in a beautiful order. Let's talk a little bit about what order to put photos in. I highly recommend that you start with the front of the house. You could do a couple of them. Note that when you syndicate out to realtor.com, when you syndicate out to other websites, they sometimes only include like the first 5 photos or something, right? Some agents are big on that. I was more worried that when the MLS is where I feel like most serious shoppers are shopping, or Zillow, and they take all of them. So let's not worry too much about it, kind of a thing. But you want to start and you want to tell the story of the house, okay? So we're at the front, we're on the front porch, we're looking back towards the front, we're walking in the front door. And oftentimes this was one of the hardest things for my admins to understand when I was teaching them. And we'd have to practice it a couple times. I want to, from this picture, I'm looking into where I'm going next. So see how you can see the couch and that table? And now we're in the living room. And now I'm looking this way and I'm going to rotate around the living room so you can pay attention to where you are. Like I see the count. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, so now I'm at the piano and I'm looking into this other room. Well, now we're going to go into that room. And as a buyer, I can piece together like, oh, there's those cabinets. And now I'm in that room with those cabinets. And then you're rotating around that room. And now we're looking back through the living room and we're walking into the dining room. Does that make sense? And now we're rotating around the dining room. We're in the kitchen. I can kind of see that paneling of the dining room, kind of a thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because how many times do you guys look at stuff online and you're completely and totally confused on what the heck is going on with this house? And you've got buyers that are like, I can't really nail down the floor plan. And is it really 4 bedrooms? I only saw 3 bedrooms, kind of a thing. So on the first floor, I am very diligent about going room by room by room and following a flow. Okay. Coming to bedroom level, everything changes. Forget what I said. No. And then I would say, instead of like going up the stairs that the first bedroom is just a secondary bedroom, I wouldn't show that first. Go to the master or the primary bedroom next. So then you're going to go to the primary and walk through that, trying to tell a story as well. Okay. Does that make sense on ordering? I often would try to put a bathroom between secondary bedrooms, especially if you had no furniture or if they were all painted the same color. So that, because, you know, it's like, okay, we clearly have this bedroom has, you know, a bed with a green blanket on it. And then this bedroom has, you know, a blue dresser kind of a thing. But you know what I'm talking about. I've had houses before. Every room was painted the same boring blue gray. And it was like, is there 4 bedrooms or is there not 4 bedrooms? So I tried to plan if there was another bathroom in between. All right. Oftentimes you go then all the way through the whole house, and then I would go outside and do a rotation around the outside of the house. Cool. Any questions? I know that sounds really, really, really silly and little to share, and yet it makes a huge difference in how you're presenting it. And again, guys, it's not just the buyer you're trying to impress. It is every single person in your network that's watching what you're doing. And it's telling them a story on how professional you are and what level of detail you go to and how you're going to present their home if they hire you. Cool. Any other questions here? Okay. I'm going to try to stay on this laptop as long as I can, guys. Just Zoom eats it up. Okay, so that's photos. And I'll show you where to upload the photos. The only other thing I would say on photos, guys, is typically you're going to have, I would do, and I'll show you when we put it in the MLS where you do this, but you're going to I would put photo remarks in each of the different rooms to kind of explain what's going on with them. And it's a way to help showcase the different things about the house. Does that make sense? Okay, another marketing piece. You guys love all of my marketing suggestions, right? They're going to help you sell more houses faster and for more money. And your clients are going to be like, geez, you are kind of crazy. And you're like, yeah, I get my crazy from leasing. Okay. The next thing that I really recommend would be, remember how we talked about when you go through your initial appointment with the seller and we're writing down all of the different things about the house, like it's a fenced backyard, we got pull-out shelves in the kitchen, under cabinet lighting, or zoned heating and cooling. That's another good one. The reason you're writing those down are I would highly recommend taking the time to create what I call feature cards, okay? And the reason that you're putting those in the house is that you're not dependent on the buyer's agent to point those things out. If your house has zoned heating and cooling and other houses, I mean, that's an upgrade, right? If they put in plantation shutters, those things are expensive, right? Some agents aren't going to point out like, hey, this one's got plantation. That's an investment, guys. And everything else we've looked at doesn't. The reason, so that's one reason it's important is you're pointing out all of the good. Y'all can sell a really messed up floor plan without any, that you know, doesn't have a whole lot going on with it if you are able to point out all of the positives. I tell you, I walked into a listing appointment and was like, how the heck am I ever going to sell this house? It is the most jacked up floor plan. Who is going to want to buy this? Now my seller was crazy and upgraded it with all kinds of things that other houses in the area didn't have. Hardwood floors, Anderson sliding doors, like amazing things that I pointed out all of that. We got an offer within 2 days because people were focused on that and not on all the imperfections, right? I was giving them something to focus on. Feature cards are great for your open house when you're standing in the house. A lot of times you're going to get I got feedback all the time during agent tours and during open houses from both agents and buyers that were like, oh my gosh, the feature cards are super, super helpful. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Some of the gutter covers. How is anyone going to know that the house has gutter covers unless you point it out? You're not putting it in the remarks. And if so, chances of someone reading that, come on, really? And isn't that an upgrade? Isn't that something that's like, wow, okay, these people have like, this is more than the average Joe house. New exterior paints. If the furnace AC water heater has been updated, those things, the roof, the age of the roof, you better believe I'm going to put those on. I had short walk to Brookside or excellent, schools or great highway access. I know those things sound silly, guys, but they're, again, are they benefits of your listing? I would say yes, right? So then talking about placement. Any questions about what you include on a feature card? Does it make sense why you're doing that? This is also a lot of times when agents come to me and they're like, I am struggling to get this listing sold. And I'm like, have you done feature cards? And they're like, what? And then I explain it to them and they go put them up and they're like, that was the best thing ever. It helped. And my sellers were so impressed. So part of it is that you want to help point things out to the buyer and the buyer's agent. Part of it too is your client's going to go, wow, she really gets me. Like she really got me. She understood how much we put into our house. We have dimmer switches all over the house. Do you know how much of an upgrade that was? And shook my head at my husband every single time he went to the store and spent $35 on a dimmer switch, right? And yet they're feeling validated because you pointed those things out. Upgraded carpet padding. Okay, do we really care that it's upgraded carpet padding? But is it a nice feature? And a buyer walking through, are they gonna go, oh yeah, this is some nice carpet. Like this isn't builder grade, right? And they're in like a good Zen place or in a good place, right? Your sellers are also seeing that. And there's so many times that I'm putting on their fridge stays with the home, washer and dryer included, those kinds of stuff too. But it's a point too that your sellers are seeing you're doing above and beyond, and you're going and doing all that you can to sell their house for as much as possible because you're pointing out all of these things. Don't have yourself be offended. Oftentimes too, as soon as it went under contract, I would get a text from my sellers, hey, can we take those cards down? And not because I didn't love them, but it's kind of creepy walking around your house and being like, upgraded fridge included with home. Like, and I even like having done it myself, it is kind of weird. Okay, so placement. And this is again, all of these little things are systems and processes, even though they sound just like OCD or being a psychotic person. When you go and print these out, this is just in a format. It's in PowerPoint. I would suggest doing the same thing in Google Slides or something of the sort. I made it to where I could print 4 on a page because we do pay for color prints, but it also made it easy to just use that paper cutter and just cut them up, okay? Do this, oftentimes I would try to do this prior to the photo appointment so that I could save myself a trip and I wasn't trying to rush to get there before showing started. After the photographer left, I went around and I put up my feature cards. I had a couple blank ones for us to make some notes on if there was additional things. Sometimes if I didn't do a great job in my intake when I was at that initial meeting, I would wait till I got the photos back and then try to see if I could think of some additional things like ceiling fans in every bedroom to include. But oftentimes you can save yourself a trip if you take these to your photo appointment. Before you go, put them in order. Start at the front door and what you're going to put on the front door and what's in the second floor and the basement, so that when you're there, you're just walking around and you're taping them up, okay? It saves you time. The other thing I would say placement-wise, you're going to say, okay, where do I put the one that's for the water heater? If it has a 3-year-old roof, if it's the fenced-in backyard or great level backyard to watch children play, I'm putting that by the back door so that they can look out and see the fenced backyard or brand new concrete driveway. You better believe I'm putting that in a place. They're going to look out the window and see the concrete driveway that we paid $7,000 for, right? You're putting more, it makes sense. Extra deep single base sink. I know that sounds silly, but if it's a price point that somebody's been renting, that's a big deal. Now, your 3-year-old roof, I saved all those big ticket, like wow items, new exterior paint, that kind of stuff. And I put it in a place there's no way in heck you could walk through that house and not see it. Like I would say more on like a wall that you're walking to go up the stairs and it's on the wall, like where you can't not see it because everyone's going to go up the stairs. Does that make sense? Don't put it on the back of the front door because they open the front door to go in and out of it. Does that make it? They're never going to see it. Okay. That was one of the things too that was like difficult to kind of get. And I level that kind of a thing. Any questions?
Printing them out on cardstock, did you say?
I mean, if you're fancy, Chris, you do that.
Okay.
You do
So
you.
you're just doing regular paper?
No, I did cardstock. I do cardstock as well because it was a little thicker and you couldn't see
You didn't
through.
laminate it or anything? It's just
No.
cardstock and you just taped it?
Yep. And
You don't put
sometimes
it
I
in
just used
plastic
regular
bag?
paper when I was in a hurry and or out of cardstock.
Okay.
But yes, cardstock's a nice touch, but regular paper is just fine too. Okay, want to see questions here. You can use Canva. Yes, I know we love our Canva. And yes, I'll send out the template. It's nothing fancy. Other little detail, if you've got a logo, this is great brand recognition for eSadie when I sold, because every listing, every buyer's agent that showed my house had to see my logo all over the house. And again, when you're holding a house open, clients are seeing, they're seeing like, oh, we need to buy a house and we've got a house to sell. This is how she represents sellers. Huh. Maybe we do stop and talk to this one for a little bit more than we did the last one.
Do you know for sure you've gotten any calls from that? But hey, I was in a house, I saw your sign.
Oh, I can't even tell you the number of agents that even would reach out. But so it's again, you are not only looking for the buyer, you're wanting your story to get told, right? That same person that was like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. Like she brought out a stager and then like, yeah, the photos are amazing. Like I really, like, I thought they'd be good, but these are like amazing, right? And she would put little notes all around the house. This is what they're telling coworkers, sister, friend, whoever, right? And it's about telling a story about you and the level of service you give. Okay, step off soapbox. Okay, let me, any questions there while I pull up our next template? I'm gonna do this other one. No? Good, great, excellent. Nailing it here today, guys. All right. The next thing I would do in marketing for your property is, we've talked about this before when we were talking about writing offers, is having that cover sheet just to make it really clear to everybody where AMD goes, what the seller's name is, legal description, the level of professionalism, but oftentimes I would have a cover sheet. And then on that had that information. And then I had the seller's disclosure behind it. And so I just uploaded all of that to the MLS, but I also would print out like 10 of them and have them in the house. And back in the day, it was so that they could write a contract. They'd have all the paperwork that they needed to write a contract. Nowadays, the reason that I have this in the house, A, is to show that like I'm above and beyond agent. But I want to have that disclosure packet in the house because if for some reason there is some concern that there might be a little moisture in the basement, or they're like, God, how old is the roof? Or because I'm not putting something up if it's a 17-year-old roof, I'm not putting a feature card up and pointing that out, right? So this is where I'm making it to where they're not dependent on the listing or the buyer's agent to send them the seller's disclosure. And I know we can pull it up on our phone through MLS Touch and see it instantaneous. Are there some agents that maybe aren't comfortable doing that? Which, yes, okay. And so you're making it to where they can go answer those questions and see that seller's disclosure while they're still in the house. Otherwise, and I know this sounds minor, there's times in which buyers will start spinning out of control. One of them's loving the house. The other one's trying to find every reason why they cannot buy this house. Did you see that there look like there's some watermarks in the basement? Do you under like maybe there's, I bet it's leaking. I bet it's leaking. I bet they've had water in this basement. They're trying to blah, 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 blah. If you can get them to stop spinning while they're back in that, while they're in the house and you can answer those questions, they get to go back to enjoying the house while they're still in the house. Instead of driving away spinning with like, oh man, and I saw how the back of the house, it sloped towards, and they're in a negative place. Does that make sense? Okay, sounds stupid. Minor note, I would always write at the top of one of them, house copy, do not remove. So if I had a stack of 15 and they all left, like one of them was still there and stayed with the house so that everybody had an ability to view it in the house. That's easy. Okay, great. Awesome, Elizabeth. I'm so funny.
I think it's funny that you keep saying it's so
Right? Because I am funny. My
But you are
God.
funny, you are.
Okay. Can y'all see this? Okay. Another email template. I love my email templates. All about setting expectations and making it to where it's a plug and play for you on what is a very stressful day. When you take a house list like live, we're going to try to do as much prep work ahead of time. We're going to have our feature cards done. We're going to have our cover like sheet done like days before. Don't think and be very like optimistic that it's no big deal. I'm just going to do it, that day, right? Because things will go wrong, things will happen. And so try to do as much as you can ahead of time. Have your email template for your go live because your clients are going to be excited and they're going to be like, okay, is it live? Is it in the system or whatnot? So create your own and what you want it to say. But a lot of times I would just include links to their house and the links I want them to share. The more proactive you can be about that, the better chance that they're sharing it from your website instead of Zillow. And then all of their friends are going and seeing somebody else's name next to it instead of seeing your name. Does that make sense? So I'd give them a link to what I wanted them to share. And then the Facebook post that I did, I would share a link with that. And then I encourage you to share these links with your friends and family. That's me just giving them direction on like, in a nice way. Hey, yo, like mark it for me, please. And they will. And again, part of it is you're trying to draw attention to you. So they see who's a magical person that did this to this house and marketed it so well. I also would include like an MLS link. And then I would reiterate what the showing instructions were and what we've approved and how showings are going to happen. Okay. You said you wanted to do text, email, and phone for your showing notifications. They're going to have at least 1 hour notice. Showings are not starting before this time and only running to this time. That way, if for any reason anything's changed, they'll know, but they also have kind of some guidelines around what that's going to look and feel like. And then I just remind them that there's an app that they'd like to download that app to manage their showings. Okay. And we'll talk about showings all in another day, another time. You can remind them that you want them to turn on all the lights for showings. And that's something that you probably will have that conversation about before. But if they can have all the lights on, the blinds open, and that first couple days, I often would say in that little feature card I left out of like, please leave lights on for other showings. Can you put that on the front door? because otherwise agents think they're being helpful and they go around and turn off all the lights. Part of why you're turning on all the lights is because you don't want agents or buyers to be fumbling to try to turn on a light and not just get it to walk through an experience. And I'm talking in the basement, every dark corner of the basement is lit up like the 4th of July kind of a thing. Okay. Any other questions there? All right. Excellent. Love it. And so, any questions at all when it comes to getting ready? Let me make sure I covered all of the things. Yes. I'm going to show you something. I do not want to freak anyone out. This is usually what I reserve to show to people when they've been in the business for a little bit. And yet sometimes it's good to just start from the very beginning with it. So you guys promise not to freak out if I show you a standard operating procedure. Great. Thanks, Krista. All right. We talked systems and process, guys. Can you guys see online? Did I share? Am I still sharing my screen? No. I like how this person's not even, no, that's me. All right, here we go. I guess I could be smart and turn the camera off over here, huh? Okay. This is what I had when I had to hire someone and teach them everything I did for my business. I would recommend you go ahead and start something like it, but it's basically a step-by-step of everything you did for a client. And that way it's easy to remember each time you do it, what you need to do. Nope, let's do, just kidding. You guys, anyone worked in a business where you had standard operating procedures, it's kind of like the instruction manual. Okay. So it's basically from pre-listing appointment and like every little thing that I would do. I made it to where it was even more detailed because I had an assistant, and you don't have to take it to this level. This is ESA crazy level, where I had what website it was that they used and then what form and template that they would use, whether it was an email template, but it goes through each step, creating the listing paperwork. And then it goes down to the listing appointment, pre-listing date. And then you go into like scheduling the staging appointment, scheduling the photos, reordering the photos. So giving yourself some kind of a checklist to go through so that you can just, because what will happen, and I know you guys are amazing, and this is not going to happen to you, but what sometimes happens is you list a house, and it's not going to happen to you because you guys are going to list like a house every 2 weeks, without a doubt. Sometimes you'll list a house, you won't list another house for maybe 4 weeks or 5 weeks, right? Even as experienced agents, it happens. And all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, I haven't done this in a little bit. I forgot that I needed to do photo remarks, or I forgot that I needed to get the key and put it in a lockbox kind of a thing. By having kind of what each step is along the way, it makes it to where it's easier for you to plan ahead and say, how many of these can I get done prior to the day of taking it live? And just kind of keeps you in line. Sound good?
Are you willing to share your standard operating procedures with us?
Yes, 100%. Like I share everything, guys. Like a week from now, I will. Kidding, not kidding. Kidding, not kidding. So I will share this with you. You are welcome to. I don't have. I'm not going to the. Are you guys going to this afternoon the floor plans training at 1? Highly recommend it if you can attend. And I'm not going to it, so I have on my calendar to work on this, sending out templates. I have them for the buyer checklist as well, that walks through all of the buyer stuff.
Can you add those to Google Drive?
Yes, I can add those to. Can you add like, because this is in Google Sheets, can you do that? It's my technology showing.
There's some way you can like transfer.
You don't know how.
I could probably figure it out, but
The Google Drive would have.
Google Drive, you have docs.
Oh, that's true, because it's in Google Drive. That's where I access it, right? Isn't that what this is?
Yeah, you can make a folder of everything you want here, and register that folder.
Okay.
And the folder will have.
You guys will like standing like clap if I when I do this, yes? Okay. No, I will totally do it. I will tell you that some of this, guys, I will do it sooner and faster if you give me the grace of some of it's a little dated. Okay. I've been updating it. I share this with my agents all the time. And don't be surprised if you talk to someone else and it looks just like this, because I've given them mine and you guys make a copy of it and you can work off of mine, delete lines, change names and stuff. But you can just reuse mine if you want to make changes to it. I've had a gazillion agents on the plaza do that over the years. So
Have you sent out anything with yet?
yes, I did last Wednesday. Today's Thursday. It's been, I told like a week, right? It's time for me to get caught up. No, so family reunion made it a little bit hard, just because it was, the internet there was not what I hoped it would be. And again, we talked about the formatting technology. You tell them used to being very leveraged and having an admin and a, full-time nanny. Like
How many years were you from agent before you started leveraging?
Say 4 years, 5 years, but I always had all of these crazy templates and all this crazy stuff. Yeah, excellent. Any other questions? Does anyone have any listing appointments or things they have coming up? Yay, love to hear that.
Aren't mine. Covering, but
Are you gonna go make feature cards for them and put them up?
probably.
You can, guys, that's like all fair game.
I'm very much that way, and my grandmother is not.
Are they her listings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chances are it's all.
Have you ever heard of the saying, beg for forgiveness rather than ask permission?
Yes.
She won't care if it's gonna help her.
Yeah.
then she-
But I live by that.
Yeah. I totally, yes, I would highly recommend it. And guys, if you're holding open someone else's listing, it is okay for you to do that. I would just say, take them down if you, or ask for, I would take them down before I left or whatever, but it's okay for you to make a flyer with your information on it. I guess that was one other thing I was going to tell you when you make your flyer. So I know I have that cover sheet. And yet here is this email that has all of the different things. Look at, I have it right here, guys. All I would have to do is hit forward and I could just send it right to you. You're like, why are you so, I'm not crazy, guys. It's just, perfection is an issue with some of us, right? We all struggle with that a little bit, right? I am no different. Okay, so I had a template that I used on every single listing. It's so funny. I had someone that was like making a new flyer and a new one every single time they got a new listing. They're like, oh my God, last time it took me like 3 hours to create the flyer for it. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, so,
Change that.
and you can, so you can click on it. I don't know what this computer has. And I had a PDF editor, or if I did it in Publisher, or I did it in Google Sheets, then you can just replace the photo, change the address, and use the same flyer.
Same with Canva.
And I will tell you, your sellers at your client appreciation event are never going to turn to each other and be like, what did your flyer look like when you listed your house? What did your flyer look like? Even though I think some of us think they have to be special, like nobody's going to know. How would they know? Anybody TikTok? Okay. Did anyone else catch any of my other, like, I know. So funny. So funny. So no one's going to know. And it's like so much simpler. And then when I had an admin, they were trained to just go switch out the photos and move on with like change the address and move on with life. And in all honesty, I don't think anyone's going to be drooling over your flyer. In the early days, I would do like a front page that looked like this. And on the back page, I would have like almost like a grid, like you'd have an Instagram, and have like some of the interior photos. So I could showcase more of the interior photos if I wanted it to where my client might take that flyer to work and show their coworkers. And back in the day, I had a really slick thing, but like nowadays, things sell so fast. And yeah. Any questions there? So get those templates and then just reuse them over and over. No one's going to know. You can update them every couple years, or maybe every 9 months if you list a ton of houses and you're tired of, you're like, man, I've used that on 14 houses. Reward yourself, create a new flyer. But otherwise, use your time wisely to go get more listings, to go get more buyers. Oh, one more thing. Let me show you this. Yay. Okay. I wrote down the password, guys, because Heartland MLS. Is that how you spell it? There we go. I should just say I want to do it, right? Proceed. It's unsafe. What is going on here?
There's just a new website.
Click that. Highlight that.
You think?
Yeah.
That's
This
what I-
one?
Yeah, that's what I did yesterday.
Oh, it's like a new thing?
Thanks.
Really? This is you, Matt? No, who was that?
I was on there today.
That was you, Matt?
Yeah.
Well, you've been on like trying to figure out how to write offers and stuff?
Oh, you did?
No,
I
I was
was this
doing
morning, I
your-
didn't have to do it.
The thing you get
Yeah, I know,
is
but I did a while ago.
KW 12 OS 1 Okay. Okay. Marketing your listing. Once you put it in the MLS, I'm signing into our office and I need to remember, keep me honest. Hi, Ginevra, welcome. We're here until noon. Sure.
Okay, thanks. Just
Hi.
need some books.
Oh, okay. Make yourself comfortable. Okay, you guys can see. I'm using the office account because I don't have any active listings to show you. So this is a little bit different for you. When you go into the MLS, you're gonna come in here on your dashboard. And under My Matrix, you can click on My Listings. And when you do this is after you've taken the house live. So it's live in the MLS. On this drop-down menu, if you click My On Market Residential Listings, then your listing's gonna show up here, okay? So just pretend like you're not doing it this way. I have to cheat because I am not an agent. So then let's go in here and I will pick on, I think I can just use, hey, Chris Austin. Okay. Just kidding. Let me do one that's active. Who did I look at yesterday? What is her, Courtney Stansbury? I think hers is still active. Not what I would do. Don't fail me. Oh, you guys. Does it say active? You guys are laughing. Oh, I know what happened. He let me sign in as him. Darn it, I don't think I am gonna be able to show you without having an active listing. When you go and, go ahead.
The one you were just on that had active.
It was. Okay, but I think I have to do it from here because at the bottom, whenever it says, and you've got a listing, it'll say like edit or what, like when it brings it up, you know what I'm talking about? And then it says reverse prospect.
Oh, right. I
Okay,
wanna know how to do that.
yes, if you click on reverse prospect, it's going to show you all of the agents that have that property in a search for criteria for their buyer and which your property needs. And so it's gonna have like a really long list of everyone. In that long list, which I wish I could show you, and I don't think I can from here, but it's gonna have what there's a heart or a light bulb, that means that they added it to a favorites list. If there's a light bulb, it means they added it to a possibilities list. So when you list a property, this is also kind of a fun, exciting thing, is you get to go on and see that afternoon, how many people have it hearted? Oh, I have like 16 hearts. Like, okay, that's exciting. Or I have like none. And then that's kind of deflating. The other thing about it is it has like a little envelope and it shows how many emails have been sent out to that buyer. It also says when it was sent to that buyer. Okay, so like I was helping Tanner yesterday with looking at some of his, one of his listings that hadn't sold, and we could see that it hadn't gone back out to these buyers on that list. So these agents sent it one time when it was listed at a higher price, and it hadn't gone back out to those buyers. And so I said, Tanner, pick up the phone and call those agents and say, hey, we did a major price reduction. Is your buyer maybe interested now that we've reduced our price X amount of dollars? Kind of a thing. You also have the name, phone number, and email address for every single agent. So it's easy to call and prospect to those agents or copy it into here just listed flyer email that you can blast out to everybody. Make sense? Okay, that's all I've got.
Okay, so I have questions about upcoming. So you mentioned seller's net proceeds and then a future training and then something about showings as well. So tomorrow is using MLS listing a home.
Yes.
Will that be related to seller's net proceeds? No,
No.
because then the next one is Monday and that's listing agent setup.
That's for showing time.
Okay. And then Tuesday is open houses and then we're done.
Oh my God, I'm
with the
so
exception of
excited.
the database.
You know, I'm going to show you a secret. Okay. You guys know how to use YouTube, so this is going to be like a shock to some people. But I can email this when I email you all the other things, and you guys come and like clap and then cheer next time I walk in the room. You have no idea, this is absolutely killing me. I don't live my life like this, and I do not do this. It's just new. and I have to give myself grace. Steve was like, will you please not give yourself a heart attack and just give yourself some grace? And I'm like, I'm tired of asking for grace. Okay, so when you go and watch one of these that I send to you, because I've sent some of them to you, right? This is how YouTube works. I am too proud of a person to ask for you to subscribe and slam that, like, what are they YouTubers? My kid watches all the time. Slam that like button and that thumbs up or whatever. But when you're watching it, if you come down here and click on KW Plastic Casey, that's where I've loaded these at this point. You're gonna have all of the different trainings I've done in the past. So click on videos.
We can't see what you're looking at.
Thank you, Candace. Also, great catch. Here we go. It's because I'm using two different computers because I was worried this one's gonna die. The battery life on this is better than I thought, guys. But I care, and so I wanted to be prepared for if it dropped, if it died, I would be. Okay. So can you see here now, guys, the screen? This is all the different videos. If you want to see that proceeds worksheet, which is a good one, please continue to scroll to the bottom until you reach. Just kidding, let's find it. I swear to God, it's in here. Seller's estimated proceeds worksheet, right here.
You can also search, right? Yeah, you can search.
Yes. And so this goes through, it's 46 minutes, but it goes through how to fill it out
Here's all the fines.
Very helpful.
and then how to use it. You guys also, there's so many apps and how to fill it out, like that'll fill it out for you. Platinum has one that'll do it for you. I think it's helpful for you to know how to do it, but this walks you through how to explain it to your client too, okay? And it's great for you to be able to fill it out on the fly if you're not confident enough to go with the range. I talk about in here how I would have a good idea running my comps what my range was, and there were times when I walk into someone's house and I'm like, yo, your version of updated is very different than the rest of the world's. Sometimes to their benefit, where you're like, you didn't just update this, like you tricked this place out. Like I'm gonna be able to sell it more than that 350 to 370. And I needed to do some math on the fly to adjust it. There were other times where I'd be like, oh, so when you said you were a 4-bedroom, you really meant that you were a 3-bedroom with a small closet in the basement that you felt like was appropriate to put your teenage son in, like with no window or door. Like, let me make some adjustments. We're actually not going to sell between 350 and 370. And so being able to fill it out on the fly was important. In the early days, before I had the confidence level of the cocky person I am today, no, I'm just kidding. I would fill it out on the fly. So they would go through and we do the tour. I'd have a general idea in my mind what I thought it would be. And I'd have some of the things already filled out, like the tax proration. And then I'd be like, oh, do you mind getting me a glass of water? And then I'm over there like doing my math and filling it out on the fly because I didn't feel comfortable giving them a number ahead of time. The reason I did it that way is a really experienced agent taught me that. And that way, when I walk in the house, they already know how much their house is going to sell for. It cut out a lot of the like, hey, well, we were thinking about redoing this bathroom in here, and we were thinking about doing da 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 da, because now they know, like, they don't need to do that, and they're gonna be able to get 350 to 370, which is way more than they ever thought they would get for the house, and it saves us a lot of time and expectations. Sometimes too, where they were like, if I'm only gonna get 350 to 370, I'm not spending the money to do X, Y, and Z. But it made it to where they could concentrate a lot more. Otherwise, and that's why the agent expressed it that way. Otherwise, the whole time they're just like, you're walking around and you're talking about the house and all they're thinking in their mind is, I wonder how much she's gonna say it's worth. I wonder how much she's gonna say it's worth. I wonder how much she's gonna say it's worth. And then when you're sitting down at the table and you tell them how much it's worth, then all they're thinking about is like, do you really think it's gonna sell for that much? Da, 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 and you've completely lost them and you've lost control of the listing appointment. Now, are there agents? Chris Austin is one of them. He does not do estimated proceeds worksheets at his listing appointment. It's a personal choice. He then sends it out later to me. The people I worked with wanted to know. That was a part of the reason they wanted me to come to their house. So to me, I think it's a good idea to include it. All right. We'll see each other tomorrow. And then it'll be the weekends.
Here tomorrow, correct?
Here.
Are we gonna be in this room again tomorrow, or?
No, this was the only time. This is not bad though, right? I mean, I think it's just as cold as in there. All right, guys. Thanks to everybody for joining online. Vicki, good to see you. Vicki sold a lot of houses. She's Vicki and Dallas are both rookies of the month. Love it.
That's
Really?
really.